Imagine the flashing lights of a massive arena. You hear this deafening roar of a crowd, and standing right at the center is a 74-year-old rock icon, just commanding the stage, belting out lyrics that literally every single person in the room knows by heart.
Right, it's a scene of just unstoppable vitality.
Exactly. But then the image abruptly shifts. The stadium lights fade into the stark, sterile, fluorescent glow of an intensive care unit, and the roar of the crowd is replaced by the rhythmic, mechanical hiss of a ventilator. That indestructible voice is suddenly and terrifyingly silenced. Welcome to StarScope Report.
Join us as we uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals.
Yeah, from red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame. And our mission on today's deep dive is to cut through the noise, the rumors, and just the sheer shock of this moment.
Right, we need to piece together the exact timeline of a medical emergency that has, frankly, rattled the global music industry.
We are looking at the headline that has millions of fans holding their breath right now. Total eclipse of the heart singer Bonnie Tyler is fighting for her life.
It's a really jarring contrast, you know? We are so conditioned to view our cultural icons as, like, larger than life, almost immortal when they're up on that stage.
Oh, totally. Seeing them suddenly thrust into a state of extreme vulnerability, it completely rewires our understanding of their humanity.
It does. And to unpack how we arrived at this really critical juncture, we are synthesizing a pretty diverse stack of sources today. We're looking at official tour postponement notices, including a really stark update from the O2 Apollo in Manchester.
Yeah, that one was tough to read.
Right. We're also analyzing the shifting language and press releases from her management team. And perhaps most crucially, we have these deeply intimate details shared by her inner circle and close friends in both the Portuguese and UK press.
Outlets like The Guardian, The Mirror, and Wales Online, right?
Exactly. So we have a pretty clear picture of what went down.
Well, to understand the speed of this escalation, we have to trace her steps back to where the first alarm bells actually rang. And surprisingly, that wasn't in Portugal, where she is currently hospitalized.
That's right, it wasn't.
It was on a stage in London. The timeline here is so crucial. According to close friends, she started feeling severely unwell during a UK concert. She actually recognized something was wrong and went to a doctor for tests right there in the capital.
But those tests didn't catch what was actually happening.
Right. And that is the part that blows my mind. If she was already in a medical setting, how on earth did she end up on a flight out of the country with a rupturing appendix? Did they just miss it entirely?
Well, that is the question everyone is asking. But it highlights a notoriously tricky area of diagnostics. Early-stage appendicitis doesn't show up as a flashing red light on a standard blood test.
It doesn't.
No, it doesn't present like a broken bone on an X-ray. In its initial phases, the inflammation is localized, and the pain often masquerades as severe indigestion or, general gastroenteritis, maybe food poisoning. Okay, so a doctor in London might look at a touring musician reporting stomach pain and just reasonably conclude it's the physical toll of travel and stress.
Precisely. They probably told her to rest and stay hydrated.
Which brings up the psychology of the performer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you have ever tried to push through a day of work at a desk while fighting off a stomach bug, you know how miserable that is.
Oh, it's the worst.
Now magnify that by 1,000 and add the pressure of thousands of ticket holders, promoters, and crew members relying on you to literally be the show.
Yeah, we have to factor in the adrenaline paradox here. Performers of her caliber possess an incredible pain tolerance and just this ingrained show-must-go-on mentality.
Right.
When a performer walks onto a stage, the brain floods the body with adrenaline and endorphins, which are like highly effective natural painkillers.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, it is highly probable that she was unintentionally masking her own symptoms. The exact neurochemistry that allows a 74-year-old to dominate a stage for 2 hours is the same mechanism that dangerously mutes the critical pain signals of a failing organ.
That is wild.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not even the wildest part. Later in the deep dive, we'll talk about the shocking twist nobody saw coming regarding how her inner circle reacted to this UK diagnosis. But for now, so she attributes the discomfort to the stress of tour prep, gets on a plane, and travels to her second home in the Algarve region of Portugal.
Right, seeking some rest.
But just 2 days after arriving, that masked pain breaks through entirely. We're talking about severe, agonizing abdominal pain. She goes to a private hospital in the Algarve, and whatever they see on her scans is so severe that she is immediately transferred to the main public hospital in Faro.
And the diagnosis is a burst appendix.
Which is terrifying. We hear the term burst appendix thrown around a lot, almost casually in pop culture.
Yeah.
But what is the actual biological cascade happening in her body at that moment?
Well, an appendix isn't just a benign, useless pouch like we sometimes think. When it bursts, it acts like a toxic grenade detonating inside the highly sterile environment of the abdominal cavity.
Ugh, that sounds horrific.
It is. When that rupture occurs, intestinal bacteria and, frankly, fecal matter spill into the peritoneum, which is the lining of the abdominal cavity.
Right.
This immediately causes peritonitis, which is a severe inflammation of that lining. But the real danger is when that localized infection breaches the bloodstream.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that triggers sepsis. Sepsis is not just an infection, it is the body's extreme, life-threatening immune response to an infection. The immune system basically overreacts, releasing chemicals that cause widespread inflammation.
Which is really bad.
Very bad. This leads to massive vasodilation. The blood vessels widen and become super leaky.
Which causes blood pressure to absolutely plummet, right?
Exactly. And when blood pressure drops that drastically, the heart cannot pump enough oxygen-rich blood to vital organs like the kidneys, liver, and brain. They literally begin to shut down. The Portuguese press reported she was battling a, quote, generalized infection, which is the clinical reality of this septic cascade.
Well, and that biological reality makes the timeline of the public relations statements really fascinating and, honestly, a bit jarring.
Oh, for sure. The PR spin was crazy.
Let's look at the official statements from her management team, specifically her manager, Matt Davis. So on May 6th, the messaging released to the world was actually quite optimistic.
Which is wild in hindsight.
Right. The statement confirmed she was admitted for emergency intestinal surgery, but it claimed the surgery went well and she is now recuperating.
Which perfectly illustrates the volatility of managing a medical crisis in the public eye.
Yeah.
The PR team wasn't necessarily being deceptive on May 6th. They were likely operating on the immediate, localized surgical outcome. Like, the surgeon successfully removed the ruptured appendix and washed out the abdominal cavity.
So they thought they were in the clear.
Exactly. For a brief window post-surgery, a patient's vitals might stabilize. And management teams who are desperate to reassure fans, promoters, and investors that this massive upcoming tour is safe will jump on that initial post-op stability.
They grab onto the first sign of hope and broadcast it. But they are dealing with a smoldering electrical fire inside a wall. They put out the flames they could see, but the heat had already traveled through the wires.
That is a perfect analogy, because by May 7th, just 24 hours later, the tone completely fractured.
It really did.
A fresh statement was issued revealing she had been put into a medically induced coma by her doctors to, quote, aid her recovery. Her condition was suddenly downgraded to very guarded. The systemic cascade we just talked about, the sepsis, had fully taken hold.
But why the induced coma? For someone reading that headline, a coma sounds like the absolute worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Like the body's just given up.
I mean, to the public, a coma absolutely signifies defeat. It sounds like the end. But medically, in cases of severe sepsis, inducing a coma is an aggressive, proactive intervention.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How so?
Well, remember that cascading lack of oxygen we discussed. A brain that is awake and conscious consumes a massive amount of oxygen and energy.
Right, okay.
By using anesthetic drugs to induce a coma, doctors drastically reduce the body's and brain's metabolic demand. It stops the patient from fighting the ventilator, allowing the machine to take over the total work of breathing.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, this redirects all of the body's remaining energy to fighting the infection, while massive doses of intravenous antibiotics try to clear the bacteria from the blood.
So it is a radical pause button on the body's function.
Precisely.
And to really grasp the shockwaves this sudden pause sent through the music industry, we have to look at the momentum she had right before she hit that wall. If you're loving these Hollywood twists and industry deep dives, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead. But let's get back to Bonnie, because the context of her vitality right up until late April is honestly mind-bending.
It really is. This was not an artist in the twilight of her career, doing like a light residency in one city or playing a few charity galas.
No, not at all. Let's talk about the sheer scale of the machine she was running. At 74 years old, this Neath Port Talbot-born singer was a total powerhouse. She was just awarded an MBE in 2023 for her services to music.
Right.
And she was actively preparing to launch a massive 50th anniversary tour to mark half a century since her 1976 breakthrough hit, Lost in France.
And if you look at the tour data from Jambase, The itinerary is grueling for an artist of any age, let alone someone in their mid-70s.
Yeah, it's intense.
We are looking at 24 upcoming dates across Europe. She was slated to headline the Summer LOS Music Festival in Malta on May 22nd. Just over a week later, she was scheduled to perform in Wiesmoor, Germany.
And the calendar just kept rolling relentlessly. Sweden, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Turkey, Romania, followed by a massive run of UK shows.
Just nonstop.
That included a highly anticipated huge show at the O2 Apollo in Manchester, which the venue has now officially postponed to 2026. Think about the physical toll of that schedule. It's not just the 2 hours on stage. It's the international flights, the varying climates, the disruption to sleep schedules, the endless sound checks.
It absolutely requires the stamina and physical maintenance of a high-performance athlete. And she was intensely proactive about that maintenance to support her lifestyle. She didn't just coast on the natural gift of her husky voice.
Right, the sources highlight how seriously she took her physical readiness. She told reporters she kept fit with 20 minutes of daily Pilates, specifically designing a routine she could do in random hotel rooms while touring.
That's dedication.
It is, and she had previously undergone knee surgeries to keep her mobility up, and she casually brushed them off to the press as mere, quote, washouts.
Washouts.
Yeah. She said they were very successful and just part of the maintenance required to keep rocking on stage.
That framing, calling a surgical knee procedure a washout, really speaks volumes about her mindset. This is a working-class Welsh artist who fought her way into the global spotlight.
Yeah, she's tough as nails.
In recent interviews, she was quoted saying, "If you've got your health, you've got everything." She made a literal public vow to never retire.
She even mentioned that the COVID lockdowns drove her crazy because she was physically separated from the stage and the audience. She just needed to get back out there on the road.
Which just makes the current reality in that intensive care unit so profoundly cruel. You have a mind, a spirit, and a lifelong work ethic that is obsessively focused on the next city, the next set list, the next high note.
Yeah.
The will is an unstoppable force. But biology ultimately provides an immovable object. The body simply forces an extreme, non-negotiable halt, completely regardless of the tour schedule.
And because she projected such absolute bulletproof health to the outside world, this sudden incapacitation hasn't just shocked the fans holding tickets. It has deeply rattled the tight-knit inner circle that is currently keeping a vigil by her side.
Oh, absolutely. The atmosphere at Faro Hospital is described in the press as incredibly tense yet deeply intimate. This isn't a bustling celebrity entourage. It is a very small, very frightened family.
The sources paint a stark picture of that hospital room. Bonnie's devoted husband, Robert Sullivan, is reportedly spending every single day by her bedside in the intensive care unit. According to the reports, he only leaves the hospital late at night to get a few hours of sleep before returning.
We also gain a critical, almost chilling perspective from Liberto Mila. He is an Algarve-based businessman, but their bond goes back decades.
Right.
They met in the 1980s when he opened a nightclub in Albufeira, and he is actually the father of Bonnie's goddaughter, Mrs. Chosen Family.
And Mila has been very vocal to the press about the medical care she's receiving in Portugal. He firmly believes that if Bonnie had stayed in the United Kingdom with those initial inconclusive tests, she would no longer be alive.
Which is a really heavy claim, but one rooted in the terrifying mathematics of a sepsis timeline.
Yeah, I mean, think about it.
If she had been resting in her London home, assuming she just had a severe stomach bug, the hours lost between the appendix bursting and receiving emergency surgical intervention would likely have been fatal. Mila has expressed profound gratitude to the doctors and nurses at Faro Hospital for their rapid, aggressive intervention.
I want to explore that geographic element because there's a fascinating split to her life and her legacy. I mean, she is through and through a beloved Welsh icon. Her voice is practically synonymous with the Welsh valleys, yet her life is literally being saved in southern Portugal. Why did Faro, of all places, become her sanctuary long before it became her hospital?
Well, it speaks to the nomadic reality of a successful musician finding a place to actually breathe. She fell in love with the Algarve region years ago while she was recording an album there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it wasn't just a brief vacation spot. The climate, the pace of life, the separation from the relentless machinery of the UK music scene, it offered a creative and personal haven. She bought a home there to establish roots outside of her fame.
And now, unexpectedly, that quiet haven has become the loud, frantic battleground for her life. And the world is watching that battleground incredibly closely.
The global reaction has been overwhelming. Her management team had to issue a completely fresh statement on her official site, separate from the medical updates, just to acknowledge the massive influx of support crashing their servers.
Wow. Crashing the servers.
Yeah. They formally thanked the fans for the incredible outpouring of love and well wishes, stating that it truly means the world.
It really proves the enduring legacy of a track like Holding Out for a Hero. People aren't just casual consumers of her audio. They feel deeply emotionally connected to the woman singing it. They're rooting for her survival in a very personal, visceral way. Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next, because stories like this just show how connected we all are to these icons.
It really is a testament to the thematic resonance of her entire career. Her music has always been about outsized emotions, about surviving the worst kind of heartbreak, about rugged resilience against the odds. For decades, she has provided the soundtrack for people fighting their own battles. Now, her fans are actively channeling that exact same energy back to her in that ICU.
As we pull back from the timeline and the medical charts, let's look at what we've really uncovered today on this deep dive. We started with a mission to piece together how a global rock icon went from actively prepping for a grueling 24-day European tour to being placed on life support in a matter of 48 hours.
We traced the invisible threat that bypassed the doctors in London. We explored the biological grenade of a ruptured appendix and the rapid, terrifying cascade of sepsis.
Yeah, and we unpacked the difficult calculus of PR teams trying to manage a narrative that literally changes by the hour.
And we witnessed the fierce, quiet dedication of a husband and a chosen family standing guard in a Portuguese hospital.
Ultimately, this deep dive serves as a humbling reminder to every single one of us about the profound fragility of human health. You can be doing your 20 minutes of daily Pilates. You can have a team of people organizing your travel. You can be actively preparing to conquer a massive international stage to celebrate a 50-year legacy. And a sudden microscopic internal rupture can completely rewrite your entire reality before the weekend is over.
That's scary.
The human body is a miracle, but it's a highly, highly delicate one.
It is a sobering reality to sit with, and it leaves us with a provocative question to mull over as we all watch the news, waiting for the next update from Faro.
Yeah.
When a legendary voice, a voice that has belted out global anthems of survival and invincibility for half a century, is suddenly silenced by a coma, the world holds its breath, waiting for an encore. But it makes you wonder, if and when Bonnie Tyler wakes up, how will a genuine, terrifying brush with her own mortality reshape the music, the message, and the spirit of a woman who so famously sang, "I need you now tonight, and I need you more than ever"? Does the survivor's anthem change when the survival is no longer a metaphor?
That is the profound unknown. It brings us right back to that quiet hospital room, the rhythmic beep of the machines and the heavy silence where powerhouse roar used to be. We are all just waiting and hoping for the music to start again. You've been listening to StarScope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.